G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks After Ukraine War Update for the 21st of March 2025. As we look around the Ukrainian map briefly, there's a lot of activity. There's only one reported point of contact in Sumy. Drone attacks on Kiev, Kharkiv, nowhere else, although they were reported on Kiev, but not shown on the maps. There's been a little bit of gain here by the Russians, a lot of activity though. Same here, a lot of activity. They're moving along the border. Apparently this is, according to according to Telegram, sources in the Kremlin have posted on Telegram that this is what allegedly is Putin's endgame. He wants to create a border, 1 mile wide buffer zone, DMZ, between Ukraine and Russia in key points. That anybody entering this DMZ will be eliminated. Allegedly, is pretty much we're going to soon allegedly start constructing a border wall. Well, they are allegedly constructing one in Belarus. I just can't find any pictures of it, although Poland has claimed they too are building a border wall. But we'll see. We'll see. Right now, there's small gains in Kupiansk. There's almost no gains elsewhere, although there's a fraction of a gain here in Silvesk. Now this is creeping molasses level here. But according to Telegram, the Russians have fought for a while now in Kromovinskaya, although there's only very little gain south, and the Ukrainians still hold on to most of Preshivka. There's very little gains elsewhere. Lots of activity, however. Now I can actually tell you, as we see, go through the map, right now there's been a push. Russians have started pushing here into Ronishki again, and they made small gains here at Prevalence. They are trying to push the Ukrainians, they're pushing through here, trying to push the Ukrainians out. Now, I don't know where there's, here we go. The Russians are trying to capture this crossing, which would control both sides of the river and effectively bring it up. Okay, so as we go around, there's very little activity. Now, Russian aviation, mostly helicopters, but backed by air and tube launched missiles, have hit Proversky and Ukrainian positions around. More Su-30. I was going to say F-35s. Su-35s have hit here again. The Russians making small gains in Brunetsky. Now, according to the Ukrainians, the Russians have made gains in Renivkia, Pavlovsk, and Novomakov. So that is not much, but it is still better than Ukraine is doing. Now, Ukraine, of course, has left markers on the map that are old, but they have recently attacked several positions in the People's Republic of Donetsk. Now, according to Wikipedia and many other sources, Russia has achieved 90% of its goals. Well, Russia's goal was the liberation of Donetsk, which they have achieved 90%, according to statements by various sources, but the media has not published them. Odd that it would be a Wikipedia entry and not actually one found anywhere else, which leads me to believe The Guardian has taken down yet another article, because who else but Guardian readers are looking at Wikipedia these days. Alright, so Politico, me, I look up folklore on Wikipedia, I write down names, and then I actually find those names in the folklore Wikipedia, not actual Wikipedia. There's a difference. But, there's multiple Wikipedias now. Actually, my favourite is getting names off Wikipedia and going to Grok and seeing what the old entries look like before the war. Yeah, it is fascinating, but I will not bore you with the details right now. But let's just say The Guardian until 2022 was not very polite or kind of Mr. Far-Right Zelensky. So Putin, now the headline reads, Putin has offered to stop sharing intel with Iran if US cuts off Ukraine. Now the context is that the US was originally offered by Russia to negotiate a ceasefire. Russia said you should take care of Ukraine. And so Putin responded with, well, if you want to quid pro quo, we will cut off Iran if you cut off Ukraine. And US said no. So, everybody is now officially an obstacle to peace, whether it's Putin, Trump, Ursula von der Leyen. Well, Zelensky was always an obstacle to peace in Ukraine, but basically everybody now is an obstacle to peace in Ukraine. But of course, you have to look at it in context and say, no, you just can't do half measures anymore. You have to have a complete and utter timeline and every detail worked out, and who's going to cost and fund and we all know, right, that Russia wants Europe to take their oil to pay for all this. And Europe is saying no, but Europe won't fund it either. And of course, Europe had walked away from guarantees in Ukraine in the first place before. And had they not, probably things would have been better. Now, Europe actually lived up to its obligations sometimes. We wouldn't have child trafficking troubles. We wouldn't have organised crime. Oh, wait. Then they wouldn't have need for big military budgets and big policing budgets now, would they? It's just the corruption that is Europe. And they don't want solutions. They want endless problems. Now, as I said before, the helicopter has made the most impact on the Russian side. With Ukraine, its drones, and with the European contingents, most of the weapons of success are actually American Bradleys. Although we've seen less and less fighting vehicles over time, and soon, that is allegedly soon, the most effective vehicle is going to be the BMP. Now, both Russia and Poland allegedly make these. The Russian version is the new Russian version, is the BMPT. I forget what the Polish version is. I will make a note. IFV Ukraine, because I'm not sure if it's the Polish or the British. I know the Bradley, we don't hear much of it anymore, and they actually only refer to the IMV. So, I'll find out which is the current vehicle of the day. Now, the Terminator, according to Russia, is the nightmare of Western armour. Now, I would say light vehicle, no worries. Sometimes a couple of light tanks can destroy a medium tank like the T-80 or T-72, but the T-90 we have seen in the past, you can look it up, T-90 destroys 7 Ukrainian vehicles. The T-90 absolutely obliterated the infantry fighting vehicles in Ukraine. So, no, I would think it'd be the other way around. Challengers would obliterate at least 4 BMPs. But Russia usually fields 8 per is it battalion? I'm sorry, having a moment. So as we go through this, this is a, let's see if I can find, this is a all-weather vehicle with, now it has twin, this is in training, as you can tell, it's got the dummy load. Okay, it has the Russian wreck REK, no, REKIT armor. This is a plate armor that goes over the top. It's basically bolted on top of existing armor. Okay, to increase it from 15mm to 20-ish millimeter. I say 20-ish because I'm not sure whether it's 1 or 2. Now, 2 adds about 8mm. I think this only adds about 4 to 5mm of steel plating. But also on top of that, they put on the T-72 now the reactive armor. More Russian tanks are getting reactive armor. This light tank, no. These are just basically anti-troop tanks, although they can be raised and elevated to use as anti-drones. This is pretty much like the T, as you see. This is a familiar setup. You see this setup on the on the Tor, on the T-90 Terminator. You see it in Russian combat, close combat systems on land, batteries, and ships. This is a very familiar setup. Now, it's not always anti-tank missiles. Sometimes they use air missiles. Now, the BMP has had 30mm grenade launchers added. Its cannons upgraded to 30mm. The new 30mm 850 rounds. They do have the new anti-tank missile. Attacker T ATGM, and it has an integrated electronic suite. There's the 30s. They don't all have, only the bigger vehicles have the new 35s, but yeah, 30mm. The grey tips are APs. Red tips, explosive, I believe. So they're the new fragmenting explosive rounds. So basically, they're for cutting drones and troops into mince. Now, as I go through, there's the training, anti-drone operations. Yeah, this is a familiar setup. Russia is obviously now decided what its configurations are going to be going forward for the following year, and probably the number of new releases are going to decrease. Right now, next coming up is submarines, but they've still got quite a number of changes to go, and we'll be looking at the Su-57, what its role in Ukraine is, as well as the changes to the MiG-31 should be coming out soon. Now, we've heard about bilateral talk. Now, yes, Kremlin has been asked for confirmation. I don't know why. It was pretty clear in the beginning that Russia will not be taking part in the talks tomorrow in the US. Now, those were announced a couple of days ago by Zelensky, in which we made it clear at the time that he was meeting, that his team was meeting with the US team, that would be Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Miami, on talks to end the Ukraine war. Now, Trump was there recently. He's back on Air Force One to deal with Iran. For now, the only direct conversation we have, a little bit of a conversation, we have between Putin and Trump, is take care of, you should be, focused on Ukraine. We want to end a conflict, focus on Ukraine. So, now I think Russia is trying to use Iran as leverage, But as we can see, there's almost no news from from TASS, right? Meaning there's almost nothing happening in Ukraine. But British journalist has noted that, yeah, there's been, now officially, it is a population crisis of youth fleeing Ukraine and not coming back. That is the biggest drop in Ukraine is women with their young sons fleeing before the cutoff date, because as soon as they're, I think if they're 11 or older, they can't leave. So there's almost no one under 10 years old anymore, right? Women, no pregnant women. They get pregnant, they leave. Everybody, Ukraine is bleeding people worse than the war. The war is causing less casualty. Okay, people leaving is decreasing the population less than the casualty rate. But there is some news out of Ukraine. Now, it's not much, and now this actually originated with a interview given to the Institute of Study of War. Colombian picked up the story that Ukraine's new defense minister revealed the scale of desertions. Now, he said that the military had faced the loss of 200,000 troops through desertions. So they've lost more to desertions than casualties in the last 12 months. That they've lost more, that they've lost also. The reason why they've not been able to do an offensive is because around 2 million refused service. They can't arrest enough. They've got their prisons are full. They can't arrest any more. They're stuck. They don't know what to do. They are talking about increasing prison sentence, but they can't get them all. They're thinking now of cutting everybody off from banking as soon as to force them out of hiding. But this is the story, not just, okay, you have CNN, Kiev Post, and the Socialists, and a few others, including Canadian News, before RT. So all these people who go, Russian disinformation, this is what I do. Every time I see a Russian story, I find out that it's copied from other stories. It's almost verbatim. It's not a translation. It's almost, yeah. Any story you can see from Russia, you can see on Russian media, is usually one that's almost guaranteed. I wouldn't say 100%, but guaranteed to be a copy of a story out of Kiev. So the Russians could point to it and say, well, it's your own words. Okay, that's the most powerful propaganda, is the truth. Your own words. And this is what they don't like. That's why I'm somehow not advertiser friendly. Okay, so take it with a grain of salt. But when you look at the casualty rate in Ukraine, it has slowed down. Okay? Even Ukraine's boasting has slowed down. Now, they haven't boasted for a while now because they've got nothing to boast about. They've lost. They claimed the other day to have achieved 140 square miles, right, liberated. And in the last day, they've lost 40, and somewhere along here, around 120. And it's not reported on the official. So the Institute of War is starting to lose credibility, although they sneak around that by saying, oh no, we only do the monthly aggregate, the month's not over yet. So, no. But they never pointed out that this, right, was never added to Russia in the first place. This territory in here, marked out through here, allegedly liberated from Russia, right, no. The Russians had pushed in and were pushed back, but they never took all of this. Okay? This is the problem. Immature people exaggerate. Okay? And the immature people love these exaggerations. They lap it up. They want their 15 minutes of constant non-stop glazing of how glorious Ukraine is. Okay, because most of the people who are watching Ukraine news right now are Ukrainians. And they want to be told how glorious they are. And until that stops, and this is called the Churchill effect. It's shown in studies, right, that people who hated Churchill were moody, restless, and refused to believe that the war would drag on, that we couldn't achieve victory, we were beyond salvation, the Americans were never coming. But those who believed Churchill were hopeful, fighting on, and they started to make victories in North Africa. And when they did, that's when the Americans, Churchill finally agreed to, I think it was a deal with India, and that's when America entered the war, although they had already been attacked in Pearl Harbor. They had no choice by then. But Churchill relented anyway, saying the Americans could have only stayed in the Pacific. We couldn't take the risk. And Parliament agreed they couldn't take the risk. And already, what they believe is the Mountbatten report had been published and already recommended that the British Viceroy had recommended that our time in India was over and just should have. But it was Labour in 1948 who didn't keep the agreement, saying that that's the conspiracy theory. So, but they didn't, right? 1948 came and went, and the British government at the time was Labour. So can't blame Churchill for India. But those are the facts. But the left never liked facts. Ukraine doesn't like facts. Most Ukrainians want to be told how glorious they are, and unfortunately so do a lot of Russians. But there are eager people like you who still want the truth, and I am continued to service the truth. Now, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you can, please support the channel. You support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.